Back for another episode of the show. As always, we got Gunny Matheson, Joe Schmidt, and tonight we have Ann Anderman.
Special guest.
Special guest.
Yeah.
Yep,
We're
special
back to our
guest.
old intro.
Yeah, I know. Well, you made me do it. So, Ann, what have you been up to?
Nothing. Just kidding. I wanted to go, crap, that's going to be a long hour.
Yeah, no, we've been there before. We can handle it. Don't worry.
No, I been working on my knees, trying to get where I can ride more. Didn't show anything last year, but judged a lot.
What's wrong with your knees?
I need total knee replacement, which I need to ask you about because Dr. Baker said, you know, he's had one, and I'll do them bilaterally, both at the same time.
You have both yours done or just the one?
Just one.
This one.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. For me, it wasn't a big deal. It
How
was
long
easy.
did you not have to ride?
I think I was maybe riding in 6 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
You told me 3 months. I'll be on a walker for a little while.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm special.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's your ordinary Tom McCutcheon.
Yeah.
You are special because I was talking about if I get physically fit before I do it, and if, like, for every 5 pounds, I heard that on a doctor show that it's a lot easier on your joints to do the replacement, and he was telling me that.
Yeah, you didn't do that.
No, because when I asked him about being physically fit, he said, well, you know who you should talk to is Tom McCutcheon, and I was like,
Yeah, wait, what?
I don't like where this is going. So anyway, it's good to have you here. Yeah, no, I do it because you'll wonder why you didn't. I mean,
that's what most people say.
Yeah, I mean, 2 at the same time is going to be. I can't speak to that, but 1. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for me. I mean,
Good.
I had the hips replaced too, and that I'd much rather do a knee over it. Yeah, because for the hips, they just tell you to sit there for 6 weeks and do nothing, and that's freaking hard to do. I mean, I knew when Andy Griffiths was on. I knew when Judge Mathis was on, Judge Judy. I knew every freaking daytime show. With the knee, they've just put you right to work. I mean, I was at the barn in 2 days. I was at the barn.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So they must have really hurt before.
Walking, moving. Yeah, no, I'd do it for sure. So you're getting yourself in shape. When are you going to do it?
I think I had clean-out surgery last September, so I'm doing a little better. I can run and stop now. I have a weakness in there. It's like posting. I could not post.
Oh, really?
No, and so I had the long trot one 2 weeks ago. They told me long trot him, and that's when Ruben yelled over, what are you doing? Said I'm posting, shut up. But making myself post. It's that move that it's a weak spot.
Really?
It doesn't hurt anymore, but it's weak. So
Yep.
maybe long trotting a couple every day will help. And so I'll try to wait till after the Futurity. I got one this year.
Yeah, that's the time. Right after the Futurities when I did all mine. It's perfect.
You did?
Yeah,
Well, that's what.
yeah. So what about you moved to Ruben's new place? You
Yeah.
were at Cinder Lakes. How long were you guys at Cinder Lakes?
2 years, I think, maybe going on 3 years. And Ruben and Brian moved out. Brian moved out in the fall. Ruben moved out in January. And then we left in August. Our
Okay.
barn. We have a separate barn over at Ruben's.
And there's Ruben Van Dorp and Brian
Yeah,
Bell.
Brian Bell, yeah.
For
We all,
those who don't know.
we rode together for the bunch of us at Cardinal Ranch. We were all together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we all, for like 3 or 4 years, and then we all moved to Cinder Lakes. 80 head of horses moved into Cinder Lakes in one day.
Yeah.
And,
That was where all the Texas Mafia rumors came from.
no, I think it's down.
That started way before that.
Yeah.
I know.
And it started down on the place you have now.
Yeah.
That's when it started.
Yeah, it started at Tim's.
Yeah, and then kind of went to Tom's because
Yeah.
the families combined and everybody thought it
Yep.
was an arranged marriage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We thought
Somebody arranged it all
that
right.
Bob and Tim were making a deal on the side.
Yeah.
And then, but I learned a lot about
Yeah, you always talk about really enjoying being able to ride with those
a
guys.
group.
Yeah.
As a group, because I always was worried about showing a bad side or letting the bad side of my horse show up. You know, when you go to a horse show, because then you're like, oh crap, I got to sell it. Now it just flipped its head upside down, and I figured out pretty quick there that everybody's flips their head upside down at times, and everybody's horses need to be trained. And for me, it was great to have feedback and suggestions other than my husband's, because, you know, husbands and wives
'Cause that
don't
doesn't
always
work.
Yeah, it doesn't always work. And
You and Mandy get along with that.
Oh,
pretty good.
phenomenal.
She's always giving
yeah.
you good advice.
Great
that you're
advice.
Just like,
Very-
thanks, honey.
Oh yeah, she's very helpful, and I appreciate the advice.
Yeah, well, she's there for you. You know she has
she's
your back.
eyes.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
right?
Of course.
Well, I actually think
It's a
that
give and take.
if you go to his place, there's signs on the windows that say "Don't tie a horse to the fence." Well, that's because Mandy and him have conversations, and she ends up tying a horse to the fence and just not coming back. That sign is there for her.
That has happened. Yes, that has happened.
Well, I think Monty and I, trust me, we thought about it when Ruben left Cinder Lakes and it was just me and Monty there. But it was awesome. We learned skills riding with everybody. But I liked it because Ruben's real big on never ride angry, never ride mad. And when he sees somebody starting to boil over, you know, he'll tell you a joke, and if you can't laugh, then...
Yeah, but, okay, I agree with
That could be-
everything,
yeah.
but 3/4 of Ruben's jokes are not funny.
Yeah, but...
They're bad.
They're bad.
Yeah.
But one time, okay, here's one time when Monty was trying to get one that was slow to learn the turnaround, and he was a great big huge thing, and he'd just step and quit, step and quit. So at some point you have to say, just move your feet, just move your darn feet. And he was spurring on him and jerking him around. It's never a good spin when that happens. But Ruben said, that looks good, Monty. Let me see him lope circles the other way now.
Now that's funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We'll give you that one, Ruben.
And then one time we had a young trainer that they usually have a little hotter tempers when they're younger, and they learn as they get older. And he was getting after one, and you could see him start to check out. And so Brian yelled, fight it, fight it. Don't go to the dark side.
Don't brown out.
Don't go to the dark side. Stay with us. Don't leave us. And the young guy didn't take it as well as we thought it was hysterical.
Oh yeah.
But,
Oh yeah.
but really, the first time I can remember, I had one leaping through the air, and Ruben said, "Wee! I can see my house from here." And I was like, "Why in the heck would he be trying to tell me a joke?"
Yeah.
And to stay out of your own headspace to ride with a group is valuable. And for us, we had a really nice broodmare that I bought the embryo, and when we started bringing her babies to the barn when they were old enough to start riding, we raised them at my house. They loved them all, and were so positive.
And her name? What's her name?
She just became a $1 million producing dam, and her name is Dunit A Lil Ruf. And
Yeah.
just last year we sold her, and a year later she became a $1 million dam. And interestingly enough, when I bought a breeding from Tom, because she's by Lil Ruf Peppy, Wallace Weiniger owned him, and Tom said I could take until she foaled to pay for the breeding. Monty, I hadn't even started dating Monty yet. And she did. She foaled 2 weeks early in my pasture, which I really don't mind, but it was during a drought, and a bobcat got it. And it was a stud colt, and it got it by the flanks, and you could see where it tried to take it down. I found it at sunrise when I went to feed, and loaded him and the mother up in the trailer, the recip, and drove to Dr. McCarroll's and named it Rough Start. And it lived 2 weeks. And you know, anybody that goes to that clinic, they all see horses there, and it lived 2 weeks and then it died. And it didn't make it, but it qualified, it stood, it nursed. And so 2 weeks in, I called Tom and asked him if any way I could get a rebreed. And he said, well, it's kind of hard. I mean, everybody saw him stand and nurse. Everybody knew he was at the vet clinic, but he said, I'll ask Wallace. And Wallace said yes. And that's Dunit A Lil Ruf that just went over $1 million. So I always like to say that we got her through the generosity and kindness of our friends in the industry.
You could probably
Good
say
story.
she was probably your biggest accomplishment and probably one of the worst moments in your life in reining too, I imagine.
Well,
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
she did a lot, she produced a lot, but I remember you showing her and backing up at the end or not backing up at the
I
end.
backed up at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was going to be, you were going to be big. You were going to win a lot of, not to bring that all back to.
No, I had-
back
We
up
do,
again.
we do like to bring it all back and rub it in a little.
You were
make it
going to
burn.
probably
I
be in the
forgot
top
about that.
3 of the Derby.
I got my score because I just backed
I
up at the
forgot
end,
about
so they marked it. Yeah, I try to too, Joe. I should have said that as the other thing I didn't want to talk about tonight.
Oh, we find a way.
No, but I was just focused, and Kathy McCutcheon explained it, and that was a bad moment for husband and wife too. But I was going to win like 42,000 and ended up winning 7 because I did get my score. I knew exactly what I was going to win. And Kathy said, those good horses that stop deep like that, they want to keep back. They just shuffle back at the end, and I just sounded like a good idea, and I just wasn't
Let 'em
thinking.
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kinda
she was saying that because Scott did the same thing on, what was the Dunit stud that Scott had that was so good that Sally brought
Done
home?
it cowboy.
Yeah, done it like a cowboy.
Done it like cowboy.
Yeah, and he was gonna maybe win the Derby. He did the same thing.
Really?
But the victory story there is I came back the next year. I didn't make the level 4 finals, but I won the level 2.
Yeah.
On the mare and was a half point higher.
Yeah. Well, it's not really a victory story, but it's a nice.
It is.
It's a nice
That's what Scotty
consolation.
said.
Yeah.
Didn't Scotty said the same thing? Was like, and it's just a level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe it is because I
Perfect
bet
McCutcheon.
if you do win all that money the one year, maybe somebody pops off and offers you enough money that you end up selling her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
you ended up hanging on to her, making a bunch of nice babies, and then selling her whenever everybody knew she was going to be an awesome producer.
And her first baby was Ruffalo Magnum. That was her first one. And the second one, the same year, there was 2, and the other one Abby Mixon bought as a
Got a
3-year-old.
special night, yeah.
Yeah, and he got injured, so she didn't. They still own him, and
They show him all the
husband show
time.
him. Yeah,
he did
still
great at
going.
the Oxford show.
Who bought
That's
her?
right, yeah.
who bought her?
Yeah.
Teton Ranch.
Okay.
Through Andrea, for his
Yep.
part of the team.
Yep.
And he did his research. He offered and asked us to partner for a couple years, and then he followed Monte around pretty much basically. And then after the Derby in 2021, he called and made an offer that for us was life changing.
Yeah.
Did you cry?
I did, but I wasn't home when they came to pick her up. I was judging, so I was glad I had a distraction. But I did cry when I got home and she wasn't in the pasture, And Monte had to explain to him, like, she's not really a broodmare. Like, she doesn't live in a 30 broodmare pasture. Like, she's kind of like our pet.
Yeah.
And Monte always called her the nickname. He called her best mare ever. Even before she was the best mare ever, he called her the best mare ever.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, when Andrea was out there, he was looking for some high quality mares for Teton, and I don't know how many he bought, but I know he bought a few good ones anyway.
Rick told me
great
that's the
ones.
only one he has bought. I don't know if he may bought more since then, but that was the only one he bought.
Yeah.
And we sold her and 3 receps. She gave us 5 embryos that year. And the first and the last, the receps didn't take.
See, I didn't really know what I was talking about. That doesn't surprise you guys.
No, again, no.
I was just trying to go with that story. Yeah, Andrea brought several mares. There you go. Yeah.
Clean them out.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to go with that, but I knew he bought yours.
Yeah. But I know he's been picky he was choosy about who he did pick. And they bought all 3 receps, and we gave some money back, and we reserved the right to have a filly. If she had 1, we automatically get it. If she had none, then we try again the next year, and if she had 2, Andrea could pick.
Right.
And he had Colonel Smoking Gun, a Maverick, and a Spook's Got a Whiz. And she had a full-on paint Spook's Got a Whiz, and had a Maverick with 4 white socks and a little white on her face, and Colonel Smoking Gun with a really cool white on her, and he wanted the Colonel Smoking Gun. He was actually the one that told Monte he should breed the Colonel Smoking Gun. So we got the Maverick at home. She's a yearling.
Yeah, perfect.
So so we got a mare.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
No.
Awesome. And are you still, so I don't know I know you were on the executive committee last year, and you were the head of the judges committee at one
The
point.
2 years before that.
What are you still involved in any of that stuff?
No, the way NRHA runs now, you can only spend 6 years in a position, and you have to rotate off. You can't stand on the committee for more than 6 consecutive years, and any committee, whether it's the age events committee or the judges committee. And it was the way when Gary Carpenter came on, he came on to restructure the board to make it smaller, more effective, and being able to move quicker.
Right.
And the side effect of that was all of the whole judges committee was supposed to rotate off at the same time. That wasn't going to work because then you'd lose all your teachers, and so they let us slow that down a little bit and started counting. But it was my time to rotate off the judges committee.
You're not involved with it now, but do
No.
you plan on being involved in it again in the future? Do they let you come back to it?
They can bring you back, but you know what? We rotate a lot of people off. They never brought one back. So there was time for a change. It's not supposed to be a lifelong position, and it's supposed to be evolving and changing all the time. And there was guys when I got on there that were on there 20 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes, not just judges committee, but even when you have a job, you do a really good job in the beginning, and then you just phone it in and just try to keep your job.
But I didn't feel that was ever the case with you.
No.
But I tried hard not to be that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that's part of it, and I can tell you that I had a lot of confidence in what was going on there in the judges committee when you and Dean were there. I think there was a lot of good thing happening, and I think there was a lot of confidence within the trainers community that, and I'll tell a story on you, probably the third thing you didn't want me to bring up. You were judging somewhere, and I called you, and I said, Ann, because you told me, you and Dean both told me, hey, anywhere you are, if you see a run that you think is marked wrong, either high or low or whatever, shoot it to us and we'll look at it.
We tried to make sure everybody knew that.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I was special, but okay. If everybody was looking at it, I'd feel less special.
I never called any of them because I knew Tom took my phone calls too. He took enough phone calls that nobody else got them.
But it's not
but
fair
still.
if one group has access and
Yeah,
another
that's
one
it.
doesn't. It's called judging. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
But anyway, I called you and I said you should look at this run, and it was a run you judged. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was in Scottsdale. And,
Yes, I do remember.
I said, I think you guys were high on this run. And you know what? 5 days later, you called me back and said, yep, we looked at it, and we were high in that run. And that gives you a ton of confidence. As a exhibitor, as somebody that makes a living in the business, it gives you a ton of confidence that is the attitude that the judges committee
Me
had.
and Dean judged that run.
Let's say had, because I'm going to bring it up, and I'm just going to bring it up. Let's talk about the Futurity this year. I don't personally. I think the judges that judge the Futurity this year, I think they're a good group, and I think I don't think a judge ever walks in to that arena, especially on finals night, without some butterflies, without some jitters, without wanting to do the best job that's ever been done. But let's be honest, there were some mistakes made at the Futurity, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say who, what. We all know there was some mistakes made at the Futurity, and what makes me a little uncomfortable is I had a conversation with somebody that was and I'm not going to name names because it's just not, it's not productive. It's just not productive, and it doesn't matter. But somebody that was very important that's in the judging community now, and I mean in the NRHA judging community, people that have some say and some power. And I had that call with somebody a couple weeks after the Futurity, and I was told, Tom, I think that those judges did the best job that has ever been done at the Futurity, and they missed on one run in the whole Futurity. Well, we all know that's not possible. That is not possible. And for me, the problem that I have with the whole situation, and I don't mean to make anybody uncomfortable, I'm sitting with a bunch of judges and I'm the only non-judge here, but to me, the issue was that it felt like the judges circled the wagons on that. The judges committee circled the wagons on that and said, this is how it was, this is how, because the conversation I had was 2 weeks after the Futurity. And then we have the NRHA meetings, the winter meetings,
You were there.
and
Last week or 2 weeks ago.
a couple of weeks ago, and it's a public meeting, so I'm not saying anything that's out of school. And it was acknowledged that there was some, it wasn't maybe judged perfectly. And I'm not blaming the judges. I'm not blaming anybody. It happens. It doesn't matter if it's UFC, the last play of the Super Bowl. It happens anywhere. But I think,
Well, the only thing that I would tell you is that now, because of social media and so many people can raise a voice, is the judges committee allows people, or I'm pretty sure they take input from the outside, which caused a meeting to happen to talk about it. And then whenever they do talk about it, they are aware of it, and then they take us judges when we go to be tested, and they show us those runs, and they say this is where they were wrong and this is where they were right. So I mean, in that instance, yes, there was mistakes made, but they do take that page and they put it in the school and say, look, guys, this is where we missed, this is what we're looking at, this is why.
and I think that's great, but I don't think that happens unless social media and outside people bring it to that. Because I'm going to bring up a name right now. Kane Emmons posted a video after the Futurity that was very respectful, and
he's a judge.
And he's a judge, and it was a differing opinion of some of the results of the Futurity, and he was made to take it down. And the problem I have with that is Jody Brainerd and Brian Dygert posted a video that say that was as good a judge Futurity as we've ever seen, and they did a great job, and their video stays up. Yeah. Okay, if you're a judge, you either can or you can't post a video
About how it was judged.
Not just you can post it if you agree. And the irony is now, a month later, the video that was made to be taken down is more in line with what the judges committee is saying than the video that is left up.
I think the main takeaway is whenever there's changes, and there was some big changes on the judges committee made last year, and it hasn't settled yet. It's still, people are getting used to their new positions. And every year we do review work of the Futurity, and that started, I think, when Jody was involved, and Mike McIntyre changed it to like way better. When you go judge a major, and if it gets reviewed, then as the monitor, I'll pull the runs I think should be reviewed, and I pull it by whatever phone calls I got from people that were complaining about particular ones, anything I saw while I was monitor, or anything the judges asked for that felt a little hunky to me, can we review that run? And then we send the runs, 10 runs usually, to however many members of the judges committee, and we say watch it through one time only with the scribe, send your sheets in. And you end up getting enough of those that you just do your work and send it in. You're not trying to overthink the hows and the whys those runs were picked and who's mad and who isn't. You just send your runs in. And then they take those same 10 runs and send them to the live judges that judged it live and say, judge them again on video, and then send us your sheets. And then we look at all the sheets. We looked at because it's not fair to compare video to live. That becomes difficult. It has its own challenges. But then they look at the live scores from the judges, the video scores from the judges, and then the committee, and then they have a call, and everybody gets together. Whoever reviewed those runs, they get together and you talk about it, and then we can say we think this was a miss here, and then the live judges will tell us, but you don't understand, it was electric in that building. That horse is going so much faster than he looked on video. So those conversations and those review work have been going on for quite some time now. I think the shift that's happening about circling the wagons, I don't think that's a permanent shift. I think everybody's trying to learn and manage their way through new people and new systems, and we have a new person that's in charge. And
I don't really think any of that's the majority of your problem, though. I mean, your problem is that
I'm getting to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, but in terms of those 2 runs at the Futurity, when we talked about in those rooms, there was a lot of good points brought up. The Judges Committee didn't feel like the one lope departure was as bad. They thought she tried to go one way, they told her, and they decided, and they said that her speed, running fast, she was just electrifying live, and Mike did watch it live, and they said that Casey was just a little too slow, and Casey did say that his horse was not feeling well and was running out of gas. There were 2 different kind of runs, and you have to use the same scoring system for 2 different kinds of runs. So they talked a lot about that, and they did say that when they watched it on video, they had them tied. They didn't have one clear winner and one not clear winner. And but then Mike explained to the whole group, you'll remember that watching it live, the arena was vibrating, and
But
I think we should try to give it some time for the new system to settle.
I
Okay.
don't even think that's the problem, though. Like, the
What?
majority of your problem is that I watched Kane's video. He was pretty respectful. I think there should be, he should be punished if his video was disrespectful, but
Right.
I didn't think it was.
Well,
I thought it was great.
When they sent it in, some of the committee did feel like it was somewhat
Disrespectful?
disrespectful. But I brought up the same thing you did.
It was just
What
his
about-
opinion, though.
Right, right. And what about Jody? Because they've said judges are afraid to mark high. They've said things too. And I suggested the same thing. If we're going to hold a standard, we need to hold the standard for everybody.
Well, I can tell you, I watched a video of Jody and Brian reviewing, and it's nothing against Jody and Brian, because I'm not saying they were wrong in this instant, but I watched them a video of them reviewing my run
Of this
in
last year.
Ocala.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
in Ocala of this last year. And I did not get a penalty for a late lead change. And they both said, yeah, we think it was a penalty for a late lead change. He probably got overmarked. Okay. If that's okay, then Kane's is okay. You can't all of a
No,
sudden
I agree
just
with
make
that.
and I don't think that you can be, and I don't know Kane. If Kane walked into my house, I wouldn't know who he was.
He would too, Kane. He's being dramatic. Yeah, he knows who you are. Me and Joe for sure do.
I've been at the school
No,
with
I'm
Kane,
saying
and I
you
think
guys
it's
do.
good.
I've never met Kane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never met him. Wouldn't know him if he walked in this house.
Sorry, Kane.
Well, it's not. I don't. You guys know. I don't know.
just-
I don't know if half the people
I'm
that
just
work
looking
for
for
him.
humor.
I was just gonna say that.
So, but my point is, I don't like this. That to me shows weakness.
Well, and it shows concern that we don't think we're doing the very best we can if we have to protect somebody.
Yeah.
But I think the whole internet, social media thing, we always tell them at the school, support other judges. Don't go out and bash everybody at the back gate. I mean, you're going to be being bashed at the back gate. So I think it needs to find a place to settle. And I personally agree that I think it both should be allowed. I think because it's
There
like,
was no bashing.
Right.
If you watch Kane's video, there was no bashing.
no, and there were some people on committee that felt like some of the comments he made were
They're
a
too
little-
sensitive.
Man. that is-
Maybe,
They're
maybe.
too sensitive. No,
They
not
never,
maybe.
they
They're too
never worked for
sensitive.
Tom McCutcheon.
They're too
Yeah.
sensitive.
That's right.
If you sit up there and you judge the reining, okay, the one of two things happen. Either you got it right or you missed it.
Or who's to say you're holding the line that you think you know for sure you see what I'm saying? It's your opinion.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's your opinion of whether the judges got it right or not.
Of course.
But there's other people that think that
They nailed it.
But the problem is-
second place guy.
When you can't give your opinion, that's the problem.
I agree with that.
That's the problem. When your opinion is met with some kind of recourse, that's the problem.
No, I agree, and Joe.
And you can't go, I'm not saying, you cannot put out a video that says, NRHA judges, they screwed it up.
Yes.
They're stupid, they're this, they're that.
Right.
You cannot do that. Because,
should not.
And should not do that, because I don't think any judge ever walks in the pen without the intentions of trying to judge it the best that's
they
ever
can.
been judged. And I don't think, I would say 95% at least, and that number may be low, of judges walk in that pen and they don't give a shit if you are their best friend or their worst enemy. They are going to sit there because of the pride that they have in what they're doing and judge it the same. And 95% may be low. It may be more than that don't give a shit if you are their best friend or their worst enemy. They are going to judge it how they think is right.
From the greater perspective, the most important thing about being a judge is the reason why reining is so successful right now, and it's huge and it's growing like crazy, is because everybody has a fair chance when they walk through the gate.
Yes.
You can be somebody that's nameless with nobody there and nobody yelling, and that's me. Monte, that's about it, who watches me show, and I hope that they're paying attention to me. So I take that when I go in. Don't overmark the guy that the most people are screaming for, but don't miss the guy that you don't know who he is and there's not a lot of people watching. I watched you at the Southwest Futurity watch Mandy's show, and you were yelling and screaming and banging on the gate. Yeah. And as soon as the run was over, you said, well, that sucked, and you walked off. So if we listen to just the crowd, the crowd even knows.
Oh yeah.
I do that to Tom too, though, Mandy. Okay.
But the crowd doesn't know. Let's be honest. There's some of the crowd that knows,
does.
Yes.
but 80%
The
of
crowd
the crowd,
knows what they want to happen.
yes, they do not know the intricacies. And we have had this conversation, and it's one of the things too that I think, I don't know if it's a buy, I don't know if it's a legitimate buy, or just one of those things that it just is what it is. But those of us that watch 15 or 20 different horses, where you get to see it all day. All of us get to see it all day. Gunny and I have had this conversation, Joe and I have had this conversation. We can watch a horse run down and stop, and I cannot prove to you that it didn't hold the ground, but I know. I can watch the top line, and I know. And Joe knows, and Gunny knows, and you know.
In the split second.
Because we saw them. It's such a finite detail that you just cannot acquire without seeing it all day, every day, for many, many years. And by the nature of what we do, we don't have access always to the people to judge the major events that see it all day, every day, for 20 years. Their intentions are good. They can find the obvious, but sometimes that is something that we run into. And that's not going to be the popular opinion for sure. Tensions are never bad. I don't think ever, I don't think a judge walks in there, sits down in that chair and says, I'm going to let this guy win over that guy.
No, and I don't think that, I think we have a lot of qualified judges, that have learned their craft in different ways and have developed through the industry, through other ways, to come up with the eye that they have. And every time I go judge, I learn something. I was missing early lead changes. That's a 1-point penalty because there's not really an early lead change. It's considered out of lead and it's a point. And I was missing them. And Hoot told me, you start from the center and work back. If you got 3 strides, you say 1, 2, 3 when they come into that lead change area. And if they've already changed before you said 1, that's an early. And if they changed after you say 3, that's late. And do it for every horse, every time. It took me all of Tulsa. 9 days of judging, every horse that came through the middle, 1, 2, 3, before I made it habit. But I did, and it helped a lot. And every time I go judge, I learn something like that from a judge I'm working with about how to be better. And I don't know that you give our judges enough credit, but I also know that crowd, I said that at the meeting. It kind of is irritating to me because my scribe can't hear me as good. And it's all I can do not to turn around and yell, "Shut up, I'm trying to work here." So and there's a level of pitch of a scream that hurts my ears. Like a dog barks real loud right close to your ear and it hurts. So there's times where I wear earplugs and just pull them back out a little. So my scribe and I can converse and I still hear the crowd. It's just at a lower level. It lets me settle and not be so annoyed, because that's not a good state of mind to judge from. But I do think that there's a lot of guys that aren't good showmen, can't pick one, can't train one, and they can flat judge one. And we have a couple, that's not the norm.
But you're not, that's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that aren't good showmen and aren't good trainers that still do it every day and see it every day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
But I don't think you necessarily need to be a full-time trainer. And it's probably a very good skill to have. But I watch them come through the school. I taught the schools for several years. And sometimes it's a guy that shows up that takes a knack to it.
You won't convince me of that. You won't convince me
Okay.
that a guy that, and this is not, it's not personal against any judge, but you won't convince me that a guy that's not around it every day can see the same things that guys that are around it every day. You'll never convince me of that, because it's such a hard thing to see.
And it's a hard thing to do.
And it's a feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's a feel and I don't know where you were going with the crowd noise, but I think if you are going to judge a major event, that should not be a factor.
And I think we've all been able to manage that, but we're accused of that, of letting the crowd.
Well, I think it's
Left them
been
speechless for a
accused.
second.
No, I'm trying to find the right words, because I don't want to take anything away. I have no interest
You want me
in
to get you a
taking
drink, Joe?
taking
I'm
this
good.
away,
They don't need
taking
us, so-
anything away from anybody, whether it be the judges, the competitors, anybody. However, I think it would be fair to say that the crowd had an influence on the Futurity of 2022.
I don't know. I mean, I left the last drag. I was watching it live, and I was in the nosebleed section, and the people around me were all tourists and passing drinks back and forth and eating food, and I couldn't just sit there with my piece of paper and watch it. And I try to do that as much as I can, sit and watch and mark, because otherwise you're just sitting and chatting. And so I went back to the stalls and watched the last drag back at the stalls on the camera, so I can't say because I wasn't there. But maybe there's a momentum built. I think the argument we will never agree to is that at the last part of the go-rounds, the judges get high. Well, the last part of the go-rounds, everybody knows what they needs to mark, and they go faster. So maybe it's a mix of both. But sometimes there's a drag that has a lot of good guys in it, and they'll say the judges went crazy for a drag, and sometimes it's because there was a whole lot of our level 4 riders in one drag. It just happens to come up that way, and it's the same.
I mean, the obvious thing too is, there's 400 horses that are in it in the Futurity. There's going to be 399 people that don't like the way it's judged.
Right.
And the
So
other
it's
guy thinks
easier
you got
to-
undermarked a little.
Yeah, it's easier to pick on the judges and hard to praise them. So
Understand, I am not picking on the judges. Not for a second am I picking on the judges. That is a hard job, and I think they sit in the worst seat in the entire arena. I think if they sat 50 feet up, further
Yeah,
away,
they could see a lot more.
they would have a better view. I think it's the hardest job in the arena, and I think it is. I am not questioning for a second anybody's integrity. Never have,
yeah,
and will not.
Well, I think
But what I'm saying is, where I lose a little bit of confidence is, I asked you to look at a run that you judged, and you said, I will do it. And in 5 days, 5 days later, you call me back and says, we looked at it and I missed it. I talked to somebody that was very high up in the judges' system 2 weeks after the Futurity, and they told me those judges were amazing, best judge futurity we've ever had, they missed one run the whole futurity. That's not the right answer.
No, not all the time. And sometimes, though, after being committee chair, by the end of the 2 years, I wasn't as polite as I was the first year, my first call. I tried really be. But when somebody came up to me and said, my dad's she didn't even know that it was AAA, but she said, A+ judge. My dad's an A+ judge or whatever it is. And he's pissed. And I said, oh, because the run wasn't marked the way he wanted. I said, did he sit there and watch every run like those judges did? And that was the worst behaved I've been with someone that had a beef.
But here's the right answer. We're going to look at those runs.
And they did.
Exactly. After the fact. After they make Kane take his video down. Okay?
Well, I don't know. That, I think, still needs to be worked out because it is the United States of America, and you don't even need to be a citizen to have freedom of speech. As soon as you land on this soil, you have freedom of speech.
Yeah. That needs to be worked out because Tom wanted to. We've been shooting this show for a couple of years now. Tom wanted to come on here after the fraternity and talk about it, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, we both kind of got scared.
We were both going.
It depends on how you
can't do that
because, like you said with Kane, we watch it. I don't think he bashed the judges at all. I thought he did a great job explaining it. If he ran a school, it's how you guys teach us in the school. Use our words. Good, very good. No, I thought he did an excellent job. And then to hear all the flack that it got, I was kind of, wow. Well,
and
if he's getting that much flack, we're definitely going to say something wrong.
And we're going to pat somebody.
Just because it's later on, since the futurity, it's kind of like when you watch a run with someone right after they show. You're never more vulnerable and raw than you are, and you're frustrated because you heard your score. And I watched a run with my buddy Ruben, and as soon as he heard the score, he started yelling at me. Because I'm a judge, and I was just there as his friend. I wasn't really watching as a tuned-in judge. And I said, well, you trot out of that run, roll back, and I couldn't really see from the gate. You may have had an overturn on one of your spins. And he said, I don't want the judge, Ann. I want my friend, Ann. So I said, those bastards. And he said, there she is. Yeah. So you have to read the room. I have to read the room, too. Yeah. Well, so sometimes there's a time where things hit people the wrong way, where later on I had to talk to a French guy who I was the low score of 5, and he didn't make the finals. First time he ever not made the finals. This was in Croix, Germany. And he wanted to talk to me about the run because you're the one that marked me low, and you're going to have to explain it to me. And it was about a month before I finally got the run and could get in contact with him. And I said, well, you didn't turn very hard. And so I zeroed both your turns. And I said, what can I do to make it better? And I said, speed it up. Oh, no, his step gets so bad when I speed him up. So I said, okay, and you never held a right foot in your stop. All 3 stops, you lift the right foot. Oh, he was so lame at that horse. So after a month, he was good with it all, and me and him are buddies now. So there's a time where you can talk to someone in life where they react poorly, and they'll never forget that moment. And when we react badly, we forget it pretty quick. But there's times where, like, he reacted badly to you, and you're never going to forget it. But I do know, generally speaking, that guy speaks pretty well, and he...
Who does?
We're not naming names.
No, we're not.
You're thinking about somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think we're even thinking about the same person, okay. but it doesn't. Again, it doesn't matter to me. The thing is, the thing that speaks the volumes more than anything is I'm not a judge, so it wasn't a thing to me, but I did not want to put either one of these guys in any jeopardy and talk about it. And you should not feel that way.
Right.
You should be able to talk. There's 2 judges here that, in my opinion, are very good judges, and you should be able to talk.
Judges here that are very good.
Yes, but she was not. We were not going to put her in that position either.
Yeah, for sure.
We were not.
So what's the difference of doing it now as opposed to right?
Because there was a public meeting about it, and it was discussed. And it was acknowledged.
Aunt Gunny and I aren't saying anything right now.
Well, it's not only that, but we were
Yeah.
going to go through the videos run by run and just talk
the
about
same
our
thing.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we're not going to do that because me and Joe are going to get slapped on the hand by doing it.
But I've heard,
Or pat it on the back and tell them how great we are.
but sometimes the work of the judge, we're supposed to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be background noise, but very important. It
Yeah.
might be arguably a very important job, but we're supposed to be background noise. We're supposed to stay quiet.
The
We're supposed
most
to stay-
important job. Not arguably. The most important job. If we can't get that part right,
Tom,
rest of it
I don't
doesn't
know that
work.
it's ever going to be where we say it's perfect. There's horse shows
No,
that
of course
judge,
not.
There's horse shows that judge easy. And we go home and say, yeah, the judges did a good job. Well, that's one that kind of judged easy. And there's other ones where it's two different styles, two different worlds of quality of work, and we have to judge them under the same system. So they have to find a way through it.
And in the moment.
And-
And in that room, when we watch those 6 or 7 runs, Mike would say, what would you mark it? And there's 100 people sitting in the room and not anybody said a word. It was, it was silence. So there's 100 people in there that couldn't answer that question. What would you mark it? In that moment. So it's not as easy as
But we need people that will judge, and we need good people that will judge. And I started judging because I thought I wasn't being treated fair in the pen, and I thought if I became a judge, then they would pay better attention. What I realized was I really didn't know the rules, so I wanted to keep my card. From then on, every 2 years we have to retest. It's not guaranteed that we're going to be a judge the next time we take the test. We don't make them judge in between, but they have to retake the test. So I decided I would always keep my card because it would keep me tuned in on from both ends of the spectrum. And I can go all over the world and watch and try to keep up with what's +1, what's +1.5. We have to remember all the judging rules came from the trainers. And you guys show us new stuff all the time and harder stuff all the time. And the first time we see something hard that's got that weird mix of hard and great and messy, tie goes to the rider. We're supposed to be benefit to the rider, so we mark it, and then we send it to the judges committee and go, what do we do with that? And the committee looks at it and tells us and starts teaching at the schools, this is what we're going to do with this.
but that's my point. Let's not circle the wagons. Let's say this is a teaching moment and go. This is for sure for me, not anything bashing the judges. For me, it's about, okay, let's use everything we can to be a teaching moment. If they got it right, great. But let's discuss it.
Even if you think they got it right, let's discuss it.
Yes.
That review work is very important, and I've been on a lot of the calls with the live judges and 5 committee members that did the review work, and we talked about it. And it's so much more valuable because if I'm doing the review work and I tell the 5 live judges, you missed that spin, then they say, all they think is Ann missed the spin. Ann says, we're off and we missed the spin. But if all 5 of the committee members collectively say, well, here's why we think it could have been a higher maneuver score, they get it because we're teaching them to fish, not give them a fish kind of thing. And it's so valuable. And so many judges were offended in the beginning because they thought it was punitive. And we all know we need to be open. Jody said it when he was in charge. Don't defend bad work. And I hope that's not what was happening in the moment that you weren't happy with. But I know every time I've been to the school.
There's not a moment I'm not happy with.
Well, the moment you talked to someone and you felt that the
Yes.
wagons were circled.
Yes, because the thing is, what makes us all grow, the reason these 2 are 2 of my very best friends is because they will tell me when I'm out in left field, or when I'm wrong, or when I'm batshit crazy. They will tell me, and that's why I value them as friends, because that is what pushes you forward. Mm-hmm. The people that just will not have that conversation or tell you that, okay, we need to do better here, that to me is
The sketchy part.
the sketchy part.
Well, I think the work is still happening behind the scenes. I think the review work, we've always had it at the Futurity, but honestly, not many people go to that meeting unless it was a little bit of a controversial Futurity. Then we're staring at each other at the meeting, but that review work has been happening for a long time. And I don't think
even if there was a clear-cut winner,
They still do
they
review it.
still throw it in the tape, and the judges committee and several judges go through it on a conference call.
And we also look at, and I asked this year specifically after you and I spoke and you told me you're on the EC, you should be able to ask, because I feel like I'm in a little bit of an awkward position
I
right
said
now.
you were on the EC, you should be able to ask, yes.
Yes. And I felt like before that moment I was in an awkward position because I'm trying not to overstep because I'm not on committee anymore, and that's when you reminded me I was on the EC. But I did ask them to look at draw number 1 in section 1, 2, and 3. Because when I was sitting in the stands, I thought it was a really good run. And since it was draw 1 in the 1 and 2 and 3, was it a miss? And pull one out that won the level 3, because I can't remember if that guy was in the level 3, draw number 1. And compare them. Take a run that was a 224 from the morning section and take a 224 from the evening section and compare them. And they do. To see if they were like way too tight in the beginning.
They did down there, right?
Yes.
Compare some of those runs.
Yes, they did.
And the conclusion was vastly different than what happened at the Futurity.
Well, so
Correct.
then you know more than me, because I didn't get the conclusion, and that I don't know. Am I allowed to still ask for the conclusions because I'm not on committee anymore? I think being open about those conclusions is important, and we can be done in a way that's not disparaging to anybody.
Yeah, and if you've heard me here all night, I haven't mentioned no names of judges, committee, because it's just not productive, and I don't want to do that. My level of confidence when you and Dean were the co-chairs of that committee was high, because I knew, maybe it's my familiar, I've known you for 30 years. I've known Dean for 30 years. Okay, maybe it's that familiarity that I can call either one of you guys and say, hey, can you look at this? And I know you're going to do it. But you guys never...
They don't bullshit you.
Correct.
Because that's the same with me. You and Dean are ones I go to. That's my first two
And
calls.
you send me runs on occasion
Yeah.
and ask
Yeah.
me to mark them.
It's
and
you,
get back to
Dean, and Terry Thompson, because I know all three of you guys. There's just no sugarcoating. This is what it is, even if I'm mad about something.
When Mike had the committee, I felt, and I was getting ready to take it over, I felt like there was certain factions that had easy access to the judges committee, like you guys, and there were some factions that never said anything and never had an opinion. So I reached out to both those groups and said, please, we would like your opinion, and we would like, if there's anything that you have a question about. And one guy is really close with Dean now, and he texts him all the time, and the other guy, he just doesn't have much of an opinion, I think. He's pretty quiet about it. But I feel like, and I felt like everybody had equal voice. Because if I'm going to be fair when a guy comes in and nobody's screaming or everybody's screaming, we have to be fair with, we're not going to just ask Tom for his opinion on how it was judged. We're going to be open to whoever wants to ask.
Well, let's talk about this too. And that's not a paid position to be the head of the judges committee. I mean, you're in the line of fire in teaching the most important job in our industry, and you get paid nothing to teach them schools.
We get paid to teach the schools.
You do?
Yes.
Oh.
We don't get paid for any of the review work we do.
Oh, okay.
But we get paid like we were judges.
Excuse me for being wrong then. I thought y'all were all voluntary.
No,
But for the hours you put in,
Yeah, you ain't getting paid.
You're not
you
getting
ain't getting paid.
but then we are all very nervous
Invested in
about. Well, we're very nervous about giving it to someone to take over again and paying them, because, I feel like they did it in the right way. They have someone that's not involved in content, that is involved with managing the people, the judges and the schools, and trying to do more stuff online, all that kind of stuff, but they're not involved in content. That's still the judges committee. So I think they took a lot of load off the judges committee in a good way, with having someone to take care of stuff but doesn't create content.
Yeah. I'm really nervous about all the emails I'm going to get next week, guys.
But yeah, and I may be
Well.
done too.
Well, but here's the thing. You have done a great job representing what the judges committee does and what their mission is. And Joe and Gunny are very good judges, and
we stayed silent for the most part.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't say anything bad.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna come
We
here.
love the NRHA. Long live the NRHA.
And I thought I was going to come and say where I was born and how I got started in the
No,
whole
we were
area.
kind of fading that way, and then we just went right into
And
that
Tom
for
just jumped
45
right
minutes.
in.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of
Yeah.
went there.
We
but-
actually
No,
quit
but it's
doing
good.
that. We like just hanging out and talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I want to know some other stuff
But
too.
I-
But yeah, this needed
It
to
is
be talked
important.
about.
It
Yeah.
is important that these things do get talked about, and we have these difficult conversations with trainers because you guys are creating the product that we are privileged enough to judge. And so those conversations, that's the backbone is the trainers that create the product that comes in that gate.
Yeah.
And we have to have uncomfortable conversations. And this clearly, Joe and Johnny thought was an uncomfortable conversation.
Well, I'm sweating a little. I'm sure Joe is too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
But I agree with you because when it went down and it was Kane's video got taken down and all that, I'm like,
It-
well, that's not what I signed up for being a judge, where I got to be stifled or that I'm going to get in trouble.
But it's not just the judges committee.
No, and I'm not blaming that. I'm just blaming the whole situation.
There's
like
other
what you're
committees
talking
that
about.
guys are getting shut down, and I just think it's they're managing their new creation of these new positions, and they may overstep here and there, but I think they're going to get it.
Well, and at the end of the day, I mean, we all agree that no judge wants to walk in there and do a bad job. Every judge walks in there and has, in my opinion, the integrity to judge everybody the same, whether they love them or hate them. And it's the worst job in the sense that
Every time I
if
go
you do
judge, I
a
think-
great job, if you do a great job and get it perfect, nobody says anything. If you miss a couple runs, people are gonna, jump on you. But for me, okay, if you miss a couple runs, you're human. It happens. But let's make it a learning experience and go on
As
from there.
trainers, you guys can't even decide which couple runs we miss. Each of you guys has a different opinion on which runs we miss. I mean, if you take top 10 guys, you won't agree on which runs you believe were missed. And I don't think the group as a whole misses the same run very often at the same time. And I love the 5-judge system. I'm a lot more relaxed when I go judge in the 5-judge system as opposed to a 3-judge system. It's a different view from every chair. A guy that's in the short end and the stops are at the other end, if that horse fusses and isn't cooperative starting his rundown, that score is going to be lower than the guy that just sat right in front of his massive stop.
So now, when you bring up that point, as far as when when we go to judges school, we're trained on center chair. It's the only view. It's always brought up. Well, if you sit down here, it's a different view. When are we going to start bringing in cameras? At least one on the other side, so that you can go, it's a different view for this guy saw it like this. Here's the proof. So that when we go out and the one guy's complaining, you go, well, here's the two views.
Or how about an end camera? We can say, here's a half-point overturn
Exactly.
from the end camera.
Right.
Because when they stop on a run-in, that first set of spins stops facing forward. When in 2020, we almost had that done. Rick Ford agreed to supply us. He wanted 5 cameramen. And if NRHA would rent the cameras, and we would put them behind judge like 1 and 5 or 4 and whatever it is, the opposites. Then he wanted a cameraman with the zoom on both ends, and we could look at which cameras would be the most useful and use it. He would just do Friday and Saturday, and we'd use it just for teaching, not for reviews in the first year, and see which camera angles are the most beneficial. And I thought if I could watch, guys would not be terrified to judge from 4 or 5 if they got to watch some
Got to
video.
practice.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said
So-
before, it's like going into school
But
and
I
running going fast.
also think all of that could be solved easier by moving the judges up out of the arena, giving them a farther distant. It's so much easier to watch the whole thing.
But
from-
is it easier to see when a guy puts his finger in between the reins? Is it
No,
easier
you couldn't
Yeah.
see that.
if he falls forward a little bit, grabs the saddle? And there's going to be some.
But to me, that's a lot less prevalent than the actual maneuvers.
And it never comes to light more than at the
Well, yeah, 'cause like-
Vegas.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
sure.
watches from up top, and only the judges
Yeah.
are watching it from down below. And
Yeah.
from monitoring there a lot, it is very different.
Very different. And you can see from up top, you can see every horse that let go of the ground.
Yeah.
And Vegas generally is a little bit drier, and there's a lot of dirt flying everywhere. So it's a little bit, it's super tricky. I mean, I feel it's not, again, this is not me bashing the judges, because that's a hard job, and they are in the worst seat, and depending on which one of those 5 seats, it can be even worse. I mean, to me, if you're on the backside in a corner, I mean, it's even harder. I get it. My only problem is, let's not censor things. Let's
I
leave
cannot
things
argue with
open
that.
for the discussion.
Yes.
For sure.
And have respectful discussions. But now, as a judge, why do you guys use white polo wraps behind when you show? You can see from space when one lifts the ground.
No idea. I think it's so stupid. I don't ever do it. No idea why people use white polo wraps on the hind end. Yeah, it looks
way
looks really cool when
It
you go
looks
through
really
the center
cool.
and do this. Looks really cool when you run and stop and go like this.
You can
It's
see
really
it.
cool.
Because I'm trying to help the judges.
Well,
Yeah, that's right.
Because he is trying to
Because
play fair.
he spent
right.
60 minutes not helping the judges and talking about it, and now he wants to
But
do
that's
us
not
a favor.
true. That's not true.
No,
That
I
is
know.
none of what this conversation was.
I know.
None of what this conversation
But
was.
I think that it'll always go back to the rules, and we have a great set of rules, and we're only allowed to use those rules to judge. And our maneuver descriptions, they're actually in the rule book, and we never read them. Even as a judge for a while, somebody said maneuver descriptions, and I was like, maneuver descriptions? Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah.
And if you read maneuver descriptions and then you read A general and you know the hierarchy of concerns, you have to make sure they're on pattern first and they're doing the pattern correctly before you can do add in degree of difficulty, which is plus half, plus 1, and plus 1.5. And degree of difficulty is actually degree of risk. How much risk did you take of it going in the shitter? And you if you get paid, if it paid out a little, you get paid a little. If it paid out a lot, you get paid a lot. And that's basically, wouldn't you say, Joe, judging in a nutshell?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yeah, and like Terry Thompson, when I talked to him last month, he said the same thing. He goes, go back to the maneuver description and read that.
Because it says, like, they have to have cadence in a spin, and it says they're supposed to be broke loose in front when they slide, and it says gradual increase of speed to the stop. It doesn't say turn the corner, bust loose, and hold it all the way down there.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think that's, none of us have any issue with that. It's the actual
That'd be good, 'cause-
applying
Yeah.
those rules. That is where it gets more difficult.
I do know when people watch, sometimes they'll get hung up on one thing that happened on a horse and forget about the whole rest of the good run and get, how can you mark him? He had that terrible stop. Well, he turned to +1, not to defend anybody or anything, but as an exhibitor, it's so much more emotional than we can even think about being as a judge. And like I said, with that guy from France, it took him a month to come around.
No, and that's what, when I kind of had a freak out when I catch rode Dwayne's horse and got hung up in a rollback, barely, and they gave me a 2-point, and I did what everybody does and shows the video to, well, I showed this to 5 judges and nobody called it. And,
You did that?
Yeah. I came to you and but then after that I got my card after a few days, I looked at it and go, I can kind of see it, but they were still picky about it, and it was Dwayne's horse, so it made it that much worse. But yeah, and I think after getting my card and going to judges school, it definitely helps.
You have to own it and swallow it when you come
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I'm still a little burnt about it, but
Well, at
I
the end
could
of-
see it. I could see it.
Hey, at the end of the day, the 3 of us watch a lot of UFC fights. The number one saying in the UFC, don't let it go to the judges.
Right.
So
Just make it crisp, make it clean, don't
give them a choice.
Don't give them a
Yes.
choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
In
end of the day.
like Tim told me years ago, just to go back to history and get away from the whole having an opinion or not, the very first horse show I judged, and this is making me old, was the Fort Worth Stock Show. Remember back in the day when it was huge? And I had just moved here, and I had to retest because I wasn't hired the first 2 years I had my card, so I retested, passed. And I moved here, and they asked me to judge the Fort Worth Stock Show. And then the open there was massive, and I don't know, it was 5 or 10,000 at it. It was a lot, and you got a saddle and everything. And the first horse through the gate was Smart Chickalina and Craig Johnson, and Tim McCoy was my scribe. No pressure.
Yeah.
But
Describe.
Tim was really good because if I'd say +half, he'd say you got to make up your own mind on this. But if I'd say +1, he'd go, ooh. And about halfway through the day, he said, and they would ride over to you and drop your bridle. They dropped it every time. They dropped it to Tim, and I would say thank you. But Tim had a winter coat on. I had like a suit on. I was playing the part, and they still dropped their bridle. Timmy's sitting up there with a clipboard.
And that's why they don't let Tim scribe anymore.
But actually, by the noon, he said, you got this, you're fine. And he went and checked bridles out back to help the day move along. And it was actually his idea to go with someone, like a mentor that could help you not do anything stupid. And in the end, I was really glad that I did that. Yeah. And I thought maybe when somebody gets their card, they should go scribe for a day before they can go judge or do something like that, pair people up. Ask a judge to donate a day in the year to go scribe for a new judge. You know, you could do something like that to help everybody ease into it, because it's not like they teach you, you have to sign the paper, you have to make sure your math is right. I mean, that you just induction by fire.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But I hear what you're saying, Tom, and I hope it's a momentary bump, because I do know it's the United States, and we are held to a higher
Don't
standard.
censor us and grow the show.
Yeah.
I understand. I just think that it's just growing pains.
And it could be, and I hope that's it, because if a moment is wasted and you don't make it a teaching moment, then what are we doing? You know.
I know the review work was done, and I know all that part.
Yes.
Was good. And I also know, good, bad, or indifferent, I own every score I give, and I've never been afraid. My monitor one time said, well, I can talk to that French guy for you if you don't want to talk to him. I said, no, good, bad, or indifferent, I own it.
100%. And that's a great, to me, that's a great attitude. That's the only way to sit up there.
You can't hide from it, otherwise
right.
You don't have the confidence enough really to
Right.
go.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that whatever butterflies you feel when you walk through the gate, you know, and in the finals, we feel that for every horse that walks through the gate.
I don't doubt that for a minute.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't.
And every time I go, when I'm flying in, I'm thinking, why did I take another job? I'm sick to my stomach. I want to do good work.
Yeah.
And then I worry all night till midnight about, I wonder if I screwed up, nobody noticed. I wonder if I messed up anything from midnight on. Oh crap, I got another day. What am I going to do? But trainers do that all the time when they're getting ready to show. And they're at the Futurity, and you guys have lots of horses to show, at least distract you, but we got nothing but sitting in the chair.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of guys that have donated a lot of time. And you know, it's funny because now they're saying the Judges Committee is so good and they worked so hard and they're such a great group. It's always been that way. It's always been from Jody on. All of them with good intentions. They've always worked hard, and nobody there, like you said, nobody goes to do bad work. And honestly, if I'm marking it a 72.5 and someone, it happened in Italy, somebody else marked it a 5.5, I don't know he's marking it a 5.5. I'm assuming he's right around 2.5 or 3 with me. And you don't know till they say it out loud. And that moment, you got to gather your crap, refocus. There's another horse coming in, and don't go high or low with the next guy to make up, because that's not how the judging system works.
Don't try and conform.
Yeah.
Just do your thing.
Yeah, and stay steady.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I
Well, I appreciate being able to have 70 minutes to tell you about my life.
No, we'll have to have you back. We'll have you back for part 2.
Where I was born, and how I
Well-
got started in horses. And
we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Once we got you started, you know, we got to keep you going.
But we haven't been. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing live.
No, we
now.
got to do some of it. Yeah,
We
yeah,
do?
for sure. Oh yeah.
Gina's was really good.
Yeah, we
I
gotta
thought
do a
that
little
was
bit.
really interesting.
We did Nathan. We asked about Nathan's stuff.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, we
Nathan.
did. He talked about growing up in the same area you were there, and
He did.
you know,
Nathan,
yeah,
I
was there.
Oh, yeah, and he worked-
Nathan who? Come on.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny about that? He was a super spreader at the Run for Maine. He had COVID that night. He showed. Everybody
Nathan did?
Yeah, he didn't know it till he got home. Everybody in the world
Oh,
loved
he
him.
left that out.
Yeah.
He was a
Super
su-
spreader.
He was a super
Yeah,
spreader.
way to go,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he signed paperwork.
He's gonna
to
get
a show that
Well, he
said.
didn't know until
Yeah.
he started not feeling
Weren't
good.
they testing? Weren't they testing
They
for
were.
production?
Yeah.
They did, but he didn't test positive until he got home.
Yeah.
He didn't break the rules.
Oh, he's gonna get canceled now.
Yeah.
Good job,
Way to
Ann.
go,
Cancel
Nathan.
Nathan Piper.
Way to go.
Good job, Ann. All right. Well,
Yeah, we'll have you back for.
yeah, we'll have you
Number
back,
two.
and we'll
Yeah.
ask you about your. We'll bring
Well, I
some.
thought we would talk about
Bring some baby pictures next time, and
maybe we could open a restaurant. Tom and I have talked about that. I thought
Yes.
that might come up.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought,
for sure.
Yeah.
we have.
How multi-talented I am.
Yeah, pizza, a great pizza maker.
She makes
great pizza.
she makes a lot of good shit. I guarantee.
Yeah.
I've talked about it for 10 years,
Yeah.
She'll
and it
cater
still
any
hasn't
party.
You
happened.
know what I've been doing a
So
lot lately is carpaccio. That stuff is good. Ruben will eat 6 plates of it. He'll founder himself on it. It's good.
yeah, he's getting big.
Yeah. He's still.
I'm going home,
You know
you
what
guys.
is? You know what is? His to stay warm. You guys, they wear your old chaps. You know. He cut the bottoms off the old chaps he used to wear when he showed Einstein's Revolution, and he wears them every day to ride in when it's cold. They still fit. I said, congratulations. They
Yeah.
still fit.
Well, Gunny's leaving us, so I guess
That's it.
that's a wrap.
Yeah, we'll see you next
And
week.
Thanks, appreciate it.